Bobby Boy.
Kevin Trips on.
Hey guys, Tacklecast back in action. We got Ben Milliken here and Drew from the shop.
What's up?
Drew, what do we got going on?
Oh man, I'm excited. Man, it doesn't need an introduction. Going to talk to us a little bit about some of your finesse setup.
That's right.
Coming back from, we were just discussing, you're coming back from South Dakota.
Yeah.
Hammering smallmouth.
Yeah, man. Had a blast up there.
Yeah, you want to talk about a little bit about that? Just because
Yeah.
it's kind of unknown.
It is.
You know, we were
It's,
just discussing.
It's a cool part of the country. You know, the Elite Series is going up to Hawaii in a couple, not that long, about a month or so, I think, August. And that's kind of a fishery that people are just starting to find out about. But we did go to Oahe for a day, but we were fishing this other area that's like in the northeast corner of the state. All these glacial deposit lakes, and there's thousands of these lakes, and a lot of people just walleye fish them, crappie fish and stuff like that. But there's giant smallmouth in them, and of course, you guys know the spinning rod is the way to catch a lot of smallies. So that's what we did a lot of up there. It was incredible. Crushed them every single day.
What, we've got our Table Rock Ozark White River smallmouth, sometimes a little different critter than what baits were you using to target them up there?
Yeah, so these were bedding smallmouth. For the large majority, they were on beds. And this was a couple weeks ago, so this was the first part of June, and then I think it's up in St. Lawrence, that area right now is starting to spawn as well.
Sure.
But so bed fishing, it's generally a lot of drop shot, Ned rig, and then we will flip a craw or something like that. We had our little 6-inch Krug that we just came out with.
Right.
It's like a craw tube hybrid, and that was absolutely deadly on the beds. But I'd say the majority of the fish we did catch on beds, though, were on the drop shot bait, the new 6-inch glitch drop shot bait. It was absolutely killer. Pair that up, I always use a Stratic. I got a bunch of these now, and silky smooth, 2,500 size. You know, it's just like an all-around reel. I don't know a spinning technique that I can't use with this 2,500 size. And then I always go braid to fluoro leader. I love the Suffix 832 braid. I've messed with a lot of different braids. And this one's 6-pound test. I go as light as I possibly can. 6 pounds is the smallest size we got here at Baitworks. And I can't break the stuff. I've never broken the stuff on any fish. And so I'm not worried about that. I think a lot of guys get scared by that. They want 15, 10-pound test braid, but that 6-pound test comes off the spool so nice. You can
Casting is, ways. I've noticed that.
You can throw a little tiny hair jig, or we like to throw that little Okashira screw head. The 16th-ounce size seems to be a lot more effective than the heavier sizes of that, with just a little 2.8 Kitech or something. And that little tiny line diameter is great, and then we matched it up with the best leader line that I know of, which is the Seagar Gold Label. This is the 8-pound test. 6-pound always scares me a little bit, so I try not to go down to 6. But 8-pound is super strong, super smooth, and we have very little break off with that as well.
Now you mentioned so something that intrigues me too. So when we've discussed it in shop a little bit, but kind of that pre-spawn, pre-bedding deal, that smallmouth. But when you say hair jig, you're talking like a marabou.
Yeah.
More of a jig, not an offshore ledge hair jig, right? You're
totally
talking
different application.
Super light line,
leech
type imitator, kind of just gliding it, long cast, gliding along, from my understanding.
Yeah, it's almost just something that if you're in an area, it's best in clean water. As clean a water as possible, and it's something where you almost can't get them to bite anything else, and so you make as long cast as you can with it. And a lot of guys don't even straight retrieve it. They'll stroll, it's called. So you leave your trolling motor on like 5 or 6, and you cast out, and you'll kind of just slowly retrieve it, but you'll just get a big bow in your line, and guys kind of just drift it back behind the boat. When it gets straight behind the boat, they'll reel it in and make another cast. It's a good way to cover a lot of water and super clean water and have a natural presentation. Yeah. Same with that Okashira screw head.
Sure.
Same exact thing. I like to throw that more than the hair jig because it looks more like something to me. But the fish don't seem to prefer either of them. Generally.
Now, are you throwing like Haze Dong or 6 cents? What are you putting on the back of that
I
thing?
usually do a 2.8 Kitech. I've done better with that than the Haze Dong or the Spark Shad even. I know a lot of guys like the 3-inch Spark Shad. Mm-hmm. And then we're coming out, 6 cents is coming out with a little 2.7 size whale. We're making it really, really soft. It's going to be great for that application too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing that I've always heard is like, especially up north, those smallmouth get really finicky to line in that super clean water. I don't have a lot of experience with it, but I know there's guys like 4-6 pound tests. Do you think that makes a difference at all, or going to the 8? Or like I said, I don't have a lot of experience up there, but it sounds like you spent plenty of time up there fishing for smallmouth. So
it can make a difference. To me, not that much, but I won't usually go over 8 pound test on my leaders, but I try not to go under 2. 8's kind of that sweet spot for me. And then when you get down to 6 or 4, more so than line visibility, I think it's just the action your bait has.
Fall rate.
It's a more limp line. Your bait has more movement on that drop shot or free rig, or if you're throwing a Damiki rig, that's such a popular technique now. The lighter line can give it a more natural fall. I'm not going to say that I know one way or another if the fish absolutely prefer that in a lot of situations, but I try to stick with the 8.
I noticed that to piggyback it to something more local. I've used a lot of that 6, 832. Use it for years, love it. But I definitely noticed, Stockton right now. A lot of guys, we do that walleye bite with the night crawler and jig head.
Yep.
Just they're coming off secondaries, main lake points, getting way out, even in a 30 foot of water. 1/8 ounce, 1/4 ounce head. Big difference. Even in your leader line. I've fished 4 pound Maxima, 6 pound fluoro, but there is a big difference. Notice, but it fished with different guys from a 10 pound fluorocarbon to even 8 pound fluorocarbon with, standard braid set up in a leader. It just goes that presentation and that fall rate. Cause it is mind-boggling. Even you're like 24, 30 foot of water, we don't have the best light penetration, but it just has to be that thing, the way that thing's falling in that more natural presentation. And it does, it gets you bit. But out there, and I'm sure it's similar like you're talking up north, I'm not fishing around brush piles, so you're really not worried about breaking off.
Exactly.
You just outfight the fish. And I know, but it makes a difference. Like, don't be afraid to downsize to that, because it can definitely get you more bites.
Yeah, don't skip a Nico rig up under a dock with 4 pound test.
Don't do that. Don't do that. That's not something you're taking to Lake Theo or Grand Lake.
Exactly.
And doing that with. But so on kind of going back up, you touched on the Oahe.
Yeah.
Coming up. That one's always interested me because I know it's a huge walleye lake, and it's such a huge lake. Like, it's a
massive.
giant body of water.
Unfathomably big.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so when you kind of pick your brain a little bit, when you fish one side, I guess can be almost like, or one area can be void of life necessarily.
Correct.
And then you go, okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So Oahe sets up really unique. A lot of people describe it as like going to the moon in fishing. It's kind of like that, because you can drive 20 miles in your boat and not see a tree on the bank. It's the weirdest thing ever. It's like 3 miles across and 400 miles long or something. It's almost 400,000 acres. It's hard to even put in perspective how big it is. But yeah, the fish don't live in the whole thing, or they do, but the quality populations of big fish do not. There's only certain stretches that have good rock. And in those stretches that have good rock, it's a lot of rock points, ledges and stuff, and 15 to 40, 50, 60 feet of water. But really the wild card up there is the pelagic species that they eat. There's like regular herring in there. Some people say that they're regular. I was talking
That's interesting.
to Matt Robertson about that the other day, actually, and I think he said they're actual herring. They're not blueback herring. They're just herring. And I know there's kokanee in there. There's trout. There's all sorts of weird stuff in there. And the state record was just caught there last year, 8+ pounds smallie. And I think there's a lot of potential 8 to 10, 11 pound smallmouth in there that just spend their whole life in 300 feet of water chasing bait.
Fly under the radar.
Yeah. So, I mean, it could be a deal where you see a bunch of 8 pounders get caught. It could be a deal where it fishes small and 17, 18 pounds a day wins it. So that'll be interesting.
I think it'll really kind of be interesting, especially since the elites haven't been there for a while, and now you have all the forward-facing sonar capabilities. Yeah. So, I mean, we might have something where it turns into a tournament like a Table Rock in the wintertime, where guys are just kind of out in the middle chasing individual fish. So that'll be interesting to watch and see how they approach that.
Yes, sir.
For sure. But so back to the big smallmouth on light line and spinning gear. What rod do you like throwing that on? Because I know, like, you got 4-pound line, 6-pound
sure.
braid, stuff like that. So you got to have the right rod so you don't break that line.
Action's critical.
Yeah, man. So the drop shot, we just came out with a new USA series with 6 cents. Everything is 100% made in the USA, from the blank to the guides to all the work's done in the United States. It's a 7-foot medium, and it's a weird rod. It's like perfectly slow and parabolic, which I didn't like at first. I didn't know anything about it until I started getting a bunch of bites on it, and it gets the hook in the fish, and you don't lose any. Those are two things that can be really difficult unless you have the perfect rod on a drop shot. And then as far as the little tiny hair jig and the Okashira screwhead and stuff, I have a new rod in my Milliken series. It's a 7.4 medium light, and that thing is just perfect for throwing an 1/8 ounce bait jig head on with a little swim bait or something on it. You can throw it a long ways, and it loads up perfect when they eat it. It's a little bit faster rod. It's like a moderate fast, but tons of tip on that rod, bends all the way through the blank. And I caught my biggest bass ever on it in February. I caught a 12.8 on that rod with 8-pound test and a little 3-inch swim bait. So it can handle big fish.
Well, and I've haven't fished your series of rods.
Yeah.
Just handled them in store. And price point per performance, they're spot on.
They're tough to beat. Yeah.
They're tough to beat. And that's something we're getting more and more 6 cents rods finally in stock each day. So shameless website plug. Keep checking us out.
Nothing wrong with that.
But because we do have more and more coming in and finally getting reloaded. But that rod, $130?
Yeah, $129.
Yeah, they are fantastic rod for the money for sure.
So just something from my little personal side of things, because if anybody knows me, they know I don't really like the spinning rod side of things. But we got some InvisX and some AbrazeX here for the big line kind of guys.
For sure.
So outside of smallmouth fishing, break it down what you like to do this time of year.
In July, you're talking about?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of different things you can do in July, and it's the summertime's my favorite time of the year to fish. I like to keep my baits up off the bottom, and so I used to be an old-time dragger, but now that I've got so much dialed into the live scope and everything, I throw so many swim baits and stuff like that. So generally, when I'm throwing swim baits, I throw all my swim baits on a AbrazeX, and almost exclusively 25-pound test, but I will bump down to 17 and 20. So I throw a big 7-inch line through. I'll throw that on 20-pound test, and I throw the big glide baits and stuff. And then I really, really like a hair jig. I saw you guys have the new shuttlecock hair jig in stock now. I'm probably going to sell those out for you guys on the way out of here. So sorry for you guys watching right now. Can't get them anymore. But, yeah, man, that becomes so deadly in the summer in July. So July, even up here, I'm talking in Texas. It's been hot in Texas since April. It's been summer post-spawn pattern since April. But even up here, those fish have seen every bait in the books by the time you get around to July, August, September, and you have to start thinking outside the box and start doing stuff differently, more natural. And that hair jig is a great presentation. Fish is great on 12-pound, 15-pound InvisX. And then one other sneaky way you can catch them too is with that 6 cents divine shaky worm, the 7-inch size or the 6-inch size, either on a shaky head or on a Nico rig. Offshore, I know that's a big thing at Lake the Ozarks, just throwing that Magnum trick worm, stuff like that.
We're starting to see guys buying that worm too. Yeah, we're selling more and more, and I put it like a ridge worm.
Yeah,
is a diamond in the rough for that deep attack. Get into those deep brush piles. Yep. I started fishing that last summer and fell in love with it. It is a great worm.
Yeah, that's a big worm for people that I think they probably should fish around here quite a bit. It kind of gets out a little quicker, the word does, down in Texas, because we're a Houston, Texas-based company, but around Conroe, that ridgeworm has won so many tournaments this summer and this spring already. It's not the traditional curly tail worm. It just has that nice natural flow to it, and it's such a good brush pile bait. It's another one it's a sneaky bait for pressured fish.
Giving away all my secrets again. Gotta stop doing that on here, man.
I didn't notice you bought any of those.
I told you it was a secret, remember? I made sure you weren't here when I did that.
No, I did. I started throwing that last summer and was blown away. Fishing behind people like a big, like a Zoom Ball monster or something. It's not your typical Magnum trick worm. And it's not a big curl tail. It's an in between. You still got plenty of action. That tail literally just
Yep.
it floats is the wrong word, but it just flutters and flips and dives and coming over logs or limbs, in that brush pile. If you Texas rig it and don't peg that sinker, and that sinker comes down and that worm falls slowly behind it, you get that different action. If you want to put it on a shaky head and send it straight down the heart of it, you've got that too. It's a versatile worm for sure.
I mean, one thing that I really like about it is like going back to the Zuma monster and all your typical 10-inch worms is it's got enough plastic. That ridge worm has enough plastic that you can put a big hook in it and you can throw it on a big weight out deep. But it's just almost got more of like a finesse profile to it for a big worm because the tail's real thin and it's wavy. And I really liked it last 3 or 4 weeks that I started using it a lot.
It's a winner. And the cleaner the water, the better for that one. I think super clean water, 4 or 5 plus foot visibility, that 10-inch worm becomes a little bit less effective for whatever reason. I think that's just not a supernatural bait. But we've had a lot of guys win in tournaments on the ridge worm and some of our super clean fisheries too in this summer bite.
Well, like you'd mentioned too, you get into July and August, even up around here, when they've seen every old monster, every Berkeley 10-inch power, not knocking them. They catch a bunch of fish. They're great baits. But when it gets hot, they've been hammered offshore in those brush piles or what have you, those ledges. Just another different profile, a little more subtle, maybe transition, pick up some more fish. So it's been a good one.
It's a good one, man.
Yeah.
Well, before you guys give any more of my secrets away, Ben, we appreciate you coming on, talking a little bit about your setups.
Absolutely.
So try not to buy all the hair jigs on your way out because some of us around here still like to throw those. But we appreciate it. Drew, you got anything else?
I don't. As always, guys, thanks for tuning in.
Comment questions below. Ben, it was nice having you.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it, man.